Hello everyone, my name is Morgane. I'm an artist and a designer, and today I would like to introduce you to my class about Cinema 4D and Photoshop. So I've been trained in an art school and I've been doing many different internships that had to do with either photography or image making, and I will be very happy to show you what I've learned so far with these two softwares separated, but also what happens when they're combined together. Okay, so I guess I would like to show you some examples also first of what we're going to try to achieve in this class, and what I would also like you to try to conceive through the knowledge I'm going to share with you. Okay, sure, so let's get started. I will just explain first a bit what we're gonna overview in this class. So firstly, we're gonna look a bit at what the software Cinema 4D is and what it can do. Then we will do a small assignment together, and finally we will use Photoshop to enable the upgrade of our project and really turn this image into a very beautiful artwork. So yes, let's jump into it. Okay, so I have the version of Cinema 4D R24. So it is the newest version, basically. And I don't know which one you will have, but today we're only going to use basic possibilities and exercise. Therefore, you don't need to have this version specifically. You can download Cinema 4D as a student, but you can also have free trial version. I will link this in the description below. So roughly, this is what the interface of Cinema 4D look like. So it might be looking quite confusing at first for a lot of people, but basically I will just get you through what you need to know with us today mainly. So here you have your main viewport, which is the scene in which you will be able to create. Here, what will happen is basically you will see all the objects in the scene. All of these different tabs are just different tools that you might use for what you want to do, and these here are just to mainly be able to manipulate the objects and the definition of the object. You also have the material tab here, which we will go in not so long, and your materials are always going to remain around this area. Okay, so Cinema 4D is a rendering software, an animation software, and you can basically do a lot with this. You can either do still image or videos. You can also mainly work around space to think about scenography or how you would do a project to be in space. It's also used a lot for rendering architecture. But you can pretty much just get really creative and, overstep the boundaries of what the software initially is and transform it into what you need to be, basically. So basically, today what we're going to do is that we're going to create organic shapes with the most basic shape you can use in Cinema 4D. So to do that, what we will do is click on that small tab, which is Add Cube Object. We will then add a sphere in the space. Okay, so now we have a sphere. To move around the sphere, you will click this small button up, and this will be able to basically move around the object. You can also move around the tab with this one and then go closer or far away with that one. Okay, so let's focus on the cube first. So this is our cube, right? And by the look it has right now, it doesn't seem to have so much definition. So this is because we have here the definitions of our cube. So we have a radius of 100 centimeters. So that's basically the size. We have the segment. So the segment is basically all the polygons that are used right now for this cube to exist. As you can see right now, it is not so smooth, and we have to make it smoother by adding more segment. For this specific project, I'm going to add a lot of segments. But in general, when you compose with Cinema 4D, the more segment you build, the more it's going to be difficult for the software to render. So this is something you somehow have to keep a bit low in general. But for this specific exercise, we're going to add it to 60. Okay, great. What we'll also do is that we will move it to an icosahedron sphere shape. And this is because it's going to make all the segments more even. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Okay, so now we have this sphere, we have to make it editable. So making it editable will make the object more easy to, you know, cut, shape, transform. And also it will be just an easier thing to do with the steps we want to get into. Okay, so we're gonna make it editable. There we go. And now we want to see at all the different tiny segments. So these are all the 60 segments that we earlier changed. Okay, so now we have our beautiful cube, right? It's great. What I want to do now is basically work around that cube and deform it. To do that, I'm gonna do with my mouse right click, and I'm gonna get to brush. Okay, great. So this is a tool that you can use to basically brush and move around the segments of your object. We're gonna move the radius of the brush to, let's say, 60. So now we have a quite thick brush. And then we're gonna press the left click on our mouse and we're gonna come and drag and drag again around our object, right? So we have to drag it while still making sure that, see here, these segments are actually still doing fine. So here I'm going to suppress that one with Ctrl Z, and I'm basically going to try to like move it around as much as I can to create some kind of interesting organic shape that I feel quite excited about. Okay, oops, see, this is what happens here again. Okay, great. Sweet. Okay, so we have something that kind of look interesting here, right, already. I'm feeling quite excited about that. I'm just going to dive it a tiny bit more. And okay, like that looks good. Okay. So, okay, I have this shape in space. I'm going to go back to it as a model. So we're going to not see the segment anymore. Okay, great. I have this model. What I will do next is that I will duplicate it. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V. Okay, now I have two of them. Okay, maybe a third one. And then Ctrl C, Ctrl V again. Sweet. Okay, we have our three shapes here, as such. And we might just like turn them a bit around. So this is the object that I just moved. You can also move it and rotate it, and you can also scale it. Right now, we're going to like move it a bit around so they all don't look exactly the same. Okay, great. And then this one like this. Okay. Sweet. Okay, so now we have these three different shapes and they look great, but they could look a bit more interesting, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to that tab, and this is all the different options you can basically add to your object. So we might take a bend, okay? So what bend means is that it literally is going to come to your object and bend it. So we're going to take the bend option and drag it under our sphere. So right now we're working with this one, right? When we click to the bend object, we have different settings. So the size, the alignment, mode, and strength, angle. What we'll do today is we won't move around these settings too much, but basically you can see that if I just start pressing strength already, this nicely turns around. So let me just add a tiny bit of strength on that one. Great. Then the second sphere, I will also add a bend object to it. I will also move it a bit around, maybe on the other side. And this one as well, I will add a bend object. Great. And then this one can go a bit like there. Okay, sweet. Super nice. And then I just move them a bit around so they look a bit more, yeah, composed. I guess that's the main point also of that class, right? It's more about learning how to compose in these softwares. So here we are, we have quite strange but nice looking interesting shapes. What I would also like to do is maybe do another one of this one, so I will copy paste it. So Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and then I will also scale it down basically. So as you can see, we're gonna have one of these shape, but like tiny. One here, and maybe one other one here, and one other one there. Okay, so we have something that looks quite abstract, right? But I'm quite happy with this composition so far. So now we have all of these elements. I'm going to show you a trick to make your element more smooth. And you do this by using this small tab and clicking on subdivision surface. So what subdivision surface is going to do is that it's going to add more segment to all of your previous models. Okay, so what I just did here is that I still have my scene and it's pretty good looking. And what I did is that I added a subdivision surface to all of my different elements here. So all of them have their own subdivision surface. And I did that because, as I said earlier, it's gonna help them have more texture and be a tiny bit more smooth and have more segments and therefore be more interesting to look at and doesn't hurt to the eye. Okay, so we now have our shape and I feel quite excited about these shapes. So maybe I'll turn this one a bit around. You can feel free to like really play with like how you want them to be, how you want them to come. Yeah, maybe a bit tilted like this is interesting. So we will see more of their shape. Okay, great. Sweet. Okay, so now we have our scene. Everything looks good. What I will do next is that I will make sure to create a sky. So you will click to this floor object, hold it, and then press sky. Sky is basically going to fill an environment around your object, and then you can fill the sky with anything you want. You can fill it with a real sky, you can fill it with HDRI, which I'm going to come to in a minute. You can fill it with a scene that you build yourself. It's very free. What I will do today with this environment is that I will update an HDRI sky, or studio to be exactly correct. So what I will do is that I will go to the material editor. So that's basically how you will create your material in Cinema 4D. You have a lot of different options, which will add either texture, transparency, reflectance, color. Today, for the sky, we will just add this specific studio environment. I'm going to show you how right now. I'm going to remove the color because we don't really need any. I'm going to also remove the reflectance, but I'm going to add an environment. Okay, once it's done, this is the environment tab. In texture, I'm going to go and add one of the studio that I will also give in the description below. So these are HDRI Studio. I'm going to show you in a minute what they do. Let's click on 7. An HDRI image is basically 360 image that will give an insight for the object on what the light is supposed to be in the scene. Okay, so right, it looks kind of like this. So this is our HDRI scene. I'm going to come, take this object and drag it into my sky. Okay, now you see it's all black, but if you click on this render view here, you will see a brief idea of what the render will be like with the object. And ta-da! Okay, so now we have over the object, we have a sort of kind of like reflectance, and so they already exist quite nicely. So this is quite nice about it. Okay, so now we have our sky and this is looking good. We're going to create some texture or material for this object. So I'm going to create a new default material, go to the tab. Okay, so I feel like what I would want here is maybe 2 different materials. So we're going to start working with the first one. So you can see here it's white. You can drag these tiny things here to basically go towards something that you would like. Maybe I feel quite excited about something a bit like violet. Okay, yeah, this looks good. And then I'm going to also go to reflectance. And reflectance is basically how your object is going to reflect the light and reflect what is around it overall. I'm going to go to type, GGX. Okay, yeah. And then I'm going to play a bit with these settings. I'm going to take away the roughness, add a bit of reflection, strength. Yeah, this looks good. So this is quite a reflective object, right? This is nice. Okay. Sweet. Then I'm going to drag it to, let's say this one, also that object as well. And maybe, yeah, okay, let's say this one as well. Okay. So now if we go to our render tab, we can already see we have some quite interesting looking shape, and I'm very into this sort of like great reflective material here, so that's great. I'm quite happy about that. Okay, let's create another material for these tiny ones up here. So I'm going to go to create another one. I click on it. This one, I don't really feel like it having a color so much, or maybe reflectance, but maybe we can add transparency to it. Okay, so as you can see, the moment we click on transparency, we already have a transparent object. We can also give it a bit of like a color tone. So maybe we can go towards something more, yeah, maybe more like this type of blue-violet here, that looks good. Maybe tiny bit less, so it's more transparent here. Okay, that looks good. Okay, great. So then I'm gonna also drag this one here, drag this one there, and then drag this one here. You can also see that this tab, which shows all of your object, is also gonna come with a different material in here. So you can already see what is going where, and it also keeps you track of, you know, making sure the wrong material is not on the wrong object. Okay, let's click the quick render view here again. Okay, I like that quite a lot, right? Already, that looks good. Okay, this is nice. Okay, so here we have our different shapes and our different objects. I would say that maybe now we can start playing a bit around like the composition, because I quite like it, but I don't find it so, you know, risky, so to say. So you can basically start playing a lot with how you want things to be in shape. You can also just move them around, such as what I'm doing right now. You can turn the shapes around. You can also, and I will show that in a minute to you, just also move around the object, and that will already give more perspective to what's happening, right? So if I move to this around, I'm already having another perspective on what's happening here. So I'm moving the object around, feel free to do so as well. Okay, so that's quite nice. Maybe this one will come here, this one will go there, this one will be like there. And okay, go back to that one. So this is just more in like depending very much on your taste and on what you actually want to do. But I have the feeling that for me, these things comes quite naturally the more I like go around them. So yeah, for example, I feel like we're getting closer to something that could be interesting from that perspective. The trick is also to make sure that the objects are inclined in the way that, you know, do justice to them. So, you know, making sure that they actually exist nicely. Okay, so let's try this. Yeah, that's quite nice already, right? Like we have these, it's sort of like more organic science fiction type of shapes. Okay, sweet. This one is a bit too much on my way, so I'm just gonna like move it a bit around. Maybe I can also have just like a wider perspective on what's happening. This can be here. This, I liked it there. It had a really nice reflectance next to that object. And this one maybe can be a bit there. Okay, tack. Let's look at this again. Oh yeah, okay, that's quite sweet. Nice, good. Okay, so now we have a composition that we actually quite enjoy. And now what I would like to do is move on to the render settings. So in order to go to the render settings, you will go to this tab, click it. So this might look quite confusing in the beginning, but I'm just gonna direct you to the most basic input and output you can use, and also how to make sure that the render looks as physical and real as possible. So the first thing you're going to do is go to rendered, and you're going to check this physical tab, okay? This is all the different presets and output that you would want for your object. So we're going to go towards HD quality because that's the least you want to use for that kind of project, and also high up the resolution to 300 dpi. Okay, we have what we want. You want the frame range to be current frame, because right now we're only doing a photo, not an animation. You're gonna go to Effects and check Ambient Occlusion and also Global Illumination. These two effects will make sure that your object looks as realistic as possible. What you also want to do is go to Save, and this will basically enable you to mark where you want your file to be exported. I will explain you that in a minute, but what we want to make sure for now is that we cross the alpha channel. We want to cross the alpha channel because the alpha channel is going to export everything but not the background. And on that project, it's exactly what we want. I'm going to show you that in a second right now. Okay, we have our scene, we're happy with it, and now we're going to click the render. This might take a little bit of time, depending on actually the strength of your computer, but also the capacity of your GPU, and also it's gonna depend a lot on how much reflection there is on the image. But for me right now, it's going quite quick. I'm just gonna wait a tiny bit for it to render and then go back to you. Okay, great, we now have our image. Okay, so the alpha channel is very important to tick because, as I explained you, we want the studio setting, we want the light of the studio, which you can see reflect here and there and etc. What we don't want on the other side is actually to have the image of the studio in our image. And this is what alpha channel enables. So alpha channel will render everything, but not the background. Once you have your image, you're gonna right click on it and you're gonna go to save image as, still image, and format, you're gonna click on the PNG. So PNG, if I'm correct, is somewhere here, exactly. And depth, we're gonna use set bits per channel, so we have actually more information on the image. Okay, great. So we're gonna do okay, and then it's gonna ask us where do we want it to go. I'm gonna go on my desktop, and I'm gonna write organic sciencey, actually. Okay, save. Great. Now we have our image, and we're done with Cinema 4D. So we can now move on to the next phase, which is the Photoshop phase. Okay, welcome back. So let's look at our image first. So this is what I explained you earlier. This is the rendered object, but without any background on it. And this is really nice because you have all the information, as I said, of the studio, but you can actually add anything you want in the background. And that's exactly what we wanted. So that's great. I'm gonna go into Photoshop. Okay, I have the 2021 version. You can have many different ones. For what we're going to do today, it doesn't really matter so much. I like to move from Cinema 4D to Photoshop because I really believe that it enables the project to become even more graphic, and you can play way more also with the different elements. Okay, so I'm gonna go to New, and I'm gonna go to Print, because that's where I usually find the preset I like. Okay, we're gonna work with an A3. Okay, so A3 size, 300 dpi, that sounds good. And I'm gonna click to create. So some of you might be familiar with Photoshop, some others might not, but I'm gonna use the most basic settings to play with this image. I have my Photoshop here and I have my image there. I'm just gonna drag my image on Photoshop, and there it already is. I'm gonna move it a bit around like this, so it actually comes down to being the same size as my poster, and then I'm gonna just move it around until it's located somewhere. Okay, that's great. That looks good. Okay, sweet. So now we have a background. I think it looks really nice already like this, if you ask me, but we have to play a bit more around. Okay, I just suppressed the small lock here, so I can actually play with this under layer. Okay, great. So I think what I would want to do right now is quite likely to, okay, first we're gonna make brightness and contrast settings. So this will enable you to play a bit with like what's happening on the image, and you have to make sure that this layer of brightness and contrast is above the organic science feed because you want it to work on that image. So we're gonna add some brightness, but mainly some contrast, because see, it gives so much more depth to the image, and that's actually what we want to do right now. Okay, we have this and it's working really fine. We're gonna go back to our adjustment, and I like to play a lot with invert. So see, we already have something that looks actually quite exciting and already a bit more different. Invert is just a nice way, I feel like, to play with highly contrasted images, and it gives you this black background that you might not be such a fond of, but today this is what we're going to try to like work with, so you can just have this like very, very graphic image. Okay, now we have inverted. We can go back to adjustment and go to color balance. With color balance, we'll be able to like play a bit around with like how we want our object to come. Okay, so actually I love this kind of like color palette here. I like the fact that it's so pink right now. Ooh, golden is actually also quite exciting. Okay, there's also interesting things that are happening in the reflections, as you can see here, which I think are quite interesting to look at. Yeah, it becomes way more science fiction-ish in a way. Okay, great. I think I will quite, yeah, I think I quite like this rose and pink type of thing. Okay, that looks good. Then we can also play a bit with a gradient map if we wanted to. Okay, so if we go to blues. So what a gradient map is that it's like a preset settings in Photoshop, and you can basically look at all the different gradient maps that exist in all the different colors, and then you end up having things that might make your image disappear a bit, but might also enhance its capacities, you know. So, oh, I actually quite like that. Yeah, this is quite nice. Yeah, you can really feel free to play around. I will be really curious to see what you actually make out of this. I think I'm gonna go for something where the object still stands out, because that's initially what we wanted. I don't want the object to disappear somehow so much. Yes, this is quite interesting as well. So really look at all of them. Try to see what actually talks more to your visual eye. I think it's also really nice to try to see what resonates the most. And you know what, actually this resonates quite a lot with me. So, okay, we're gonna go back to our contrast because I feel like my image disappeared a bit. We're gonna take the brightness a bit down. Okay, now we're getting to something a bit more like retro, which I quite enjoy. Okay, this is a quite interesting image already, right? Okay, so I feel quite happy about all of these settings. I'm gonna grab all of my settings from layer 0 to brightness and contrast. And I'm gonna press Alt, bring them all together, and then Control E. Now they are one object. Okay, I'm gonna go to filter and add some noise, because I have the feeling that noise usually adds also texture to my image. So you can see that this is what the amount of noise you would do to your image. We don't want to go too far because then it just disrupts the object. I have the feeling, and also the final image. But I have the feeling I would be quite happy with something around 30% right now. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so let's look into our image. We actually have now this quite good looking poster that, yeah, I'm happy and satisfied with. I believe that it is a done project, and I will now go to my export settings. So I'll go to File and then Export. I will do Export As, and then you have this new tab opening with all the different settings. I would want to be a JPEG. This is all the settings with the pixels. I'm quite satisfied with this, and I'm going to export, desktop, and write this as a final project. Okay, perfect. This is now just uploading. Great. And now look at your final project. Okay, so this is the final image. We used the most simple settings of Cinema 4D and Photoshop. I hope you really enjoyed this class, and I will see you soon for another one. Please feel free to also share your projects. I will put the HDRI elements in the back or in the link, and I'm really excited to see what you guys will do. Have a very nice day and see you soon.